So recommendation number 3 goes back to interested parties again. Do not allow private right of action for any interested party after 90 days if the department has not instituted civil action as proposed in the campus ordinance. So this would significantly expand who can take a private right of action against someone who's violating Section 41A, and it would include anyone who's defined as an interested party, which you just voted on would be the owner, and then previously anyone within 100 feet of the property, as well as nonprofits and a whole litany of other people.
Commissioner Richards.
Question I have is, we heard a speaker early on hours ago say, I had something happen next door to me and I filed a complaint and nothing happened. I'm kind of going crazy because I got to go to work in the morning, and I think it was in Russian Hill. This allows that person or the neighbor, if they were because they were going crazy and it was a real nuisance, to actually do this after 90 days.
Yes. They wait, I think, 60 days. They send us a letter. We wait another 30 days, and then after that they can take.
If something's not happening, it's kind of like a safety valve to me.
Commissioner Antonini.
Yeah, I just wanted to hear what your recommendation was. You said do not allow at the beginning of your
do not allow. I will say that Supervisor or the mayoral ordinance also has a provision like this in it as well, but the number of days is significantly longer. It's 120, I think.
So you say do not allow
105. Do not expand the private right of action to include any interested party after 90 days.
Do not expand interested party after 90 days because they have to take their action before then. Is that what you're saying?
It's on page 20 of your case report as well.
Commissioner Moore. Commissioner Richards.
Well, what type of abuses do you foresee? I see here it says it can open up the entire process for abuses.
I think we were concerned that it would just open up the door for anyone who wanted to file a lawsuit against their neighbor. It would just and it would also take the responsibility away from the planning department from enforcing its own laws. That was a justification for it.
Sure, and I guess to the zoning administrator, our enforcement actions happen normally before 90 days. We send a letter.
It doesn't. We have to determine that there's a violation within. We would have to determine a violation happened within those 90 days.
If Deputy City Attorney Marlena Byrne, if I can jump in for a second, I think there are sort of two issues embedded here. One is that Supervisor Campos's ordinance expands both expands the definition of private right of action and allows any interested party who meets that. Sorry, let me take one step back. Supervisor Campos's ordinance expands the definition of interested party, and he creates a new private right of action that lets any interested party who falls within that definition to file a lawsuit. If they've filed a complaint with the department, nothing happens for 60 days, the director has not made a written determination that there's no violation, then they can give our office and the department 30 days notice. If we file a lawsuit within those 30 days, they cannot bring their private right of action, but if we don't, then they can bring their private right of action. So there are sort of two issues embedded here. One is that Supervisor Campos's legislation would allow any interested party to do this, whereas in contrast, Supervisor Breed and Kim's ordinance only applies for this expedited private right of action to housing nonprofits. And Supervisor Farrell's ordinance only applies for this expedited private right of action to permanent residents of the building, permanent residents within 100 feet of the building, and HOAs associated with the building. Also, the second issue is that the timeline in Supervisor Campos's ordinances is a little shorter. It's only the 60 days, and then they have to give our office 30 days notice. Supervisor Farrell's legislation has a 105-day timeline, which is geared towards allowing the administrative process to finish. Therefore, if the city's administrative process finishes within 105 days, they don't get this expedited right of action. So I'm not sure if that just confused you more, but those are some of the differences.
Commissioner Moore.
I forgot to take.
Okay. Commissioner Richards.
I guess the question is, and I was out for one of the votes, which was number 5. Did we take action on all the other items you said with the different permutations, City Attorney? If you're aware of.
You mean the 3 different?
Right, which you just went through. Are those all disposed of and we're dealing with this one now, or are those still outstanding?
No, well, the way that department staff has organized this is more by issue than by ordinance.
Okay.
So they have sort of pulled out individual issues from each of those ordinances and brought them to you. So that because staff is recommending sort of a mixed bag, they're not just recommending Supervisor Campos's ordinances, it's bits and pieces from each one.
So if I support part of it, and I say I would like to be 105 days, like the Farrell ordinance, I'd still have to vote negative on this one and propose that we put that in the bucket later.
We can talk about the Farrell's provision as well, that we weren't aware that it was in the ordinance while we're doing it. So
I mean, the longer period seems more reasonable to me.
Commissioner Antonini.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. I'm just trying to think that the violation occurs and then there's a 90-day period of time when there might be private right of action, but if the city has not done anything or after that time expires, then there can't be private right of action, according to what we're voting on here. Is that true?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, but then for some reason Farrell wanted 105 instead of 90. What's his thinking making it a longer period of time?
Actually, the difference between the two, Supervisor Campos's ordinance is 60 days, and then the interested party gives so 60 days pass, the department basically hasn't made any formal determinations, has not made a formal determination that there is or is not a violation within 60 days of the complaint being filed. If that happens, then this is in Supervisor Campos's legislation, then the interested party has to give our office, the city attorney's office, and the department 30 days notice of their intent to file a lawsuit. If our office, the city attorney's office, files a lawsuit then their private right of action is cut off and they have to go to the regular private right of action, which exists in the current code, where they have to go through the whole administrative process with the city, the director finds a determination, and then they can file a lawsuit. Under Supervisor Farrell's, the time period is longer. So not 60 days, his is 105 days, and that tracks the timing of the administrative process that the city has. So essentially what that means is that, I'll use an example. Under the current law, the only private right of action that exists only becomes ripe once the director has held a hearing and found a determination. That's the only time you can file a private action, is when the city has said, there's been a violation here, we have a determination. Under all of these expedited private rights of action, you don't have to wait for the director to make that determination. So the main difference between Supervisor Campos's and Supervisor Farrell's, setting aside the definition of who can do this or not, but just in terms of the timeline, is that Supervisor Farrell's timeline is longer. It's 105 days, which theoretically gives the city enough time to go through the whole administrative process and make a determination that a violation has or has not occurred. So that if during that time the city finds, no, there's no violation here, we don't have any evidence of that, then no private right of action ever kicks in. Alternatively, if during that time the city finds, yes, there's a violation and files a lawsuit, again, no private right of action kicks in because the city is enforcing.
Yeah, it seems to me the longer period makes more sense because things happen fast and process sometimes is slow, and if that is tracking the amount of time for administrative action, it would seem that that would be the better time period. Mr. Starr, can you give me staff's thinking on that?
We had not discussed the longer time period, but I would assume, looking at the zoning administrator, we would prefer a longer time period if you did expand the private right of action.
I'm going to support 105. Was that the number?
That's the number that's included in Supervisor Farrell's private right of action.
And we can take that up at...
Plus a 30-day notice to our office and the department of the intent to file a lawsuit if that 105 days passes and there's been no determination by the director.
So in total, it would be 135 days before they can actually take a private right of action.
Oh, okay. So that's... And then if something has happened in that interim, either dismissal or filing of a suit, then they can't do it.
Correct.
Right, so that's good. That will cut down on the amount of litigation. I think it
Right.
makes sense to me. So it's 105 and then another 30 days.
A warning letter for 3 days.
Warning letter, okay.
So I would recommend taking that up as a separate item and just voting on this one right now, the Campos one, which is the 90-day.
Okay, so we'll get that out of the way maybe right now.
Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you. And also for Commissioner Antonini, that was already on our running list of things to add.
Commissioner Richards.
So a vote yes here would be to support the department's recommendation. A vote no would be you want something alternative.
Correct.
Shall I call the question for recommendation 13?
Yes, please.
So on recommendation 13, to not allow private rights of action for any interested party after 90 days if the department has not instituted civil action. Commissioner Antonini.
Aye.
Commissioner Hillis.
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson.
Aye.
Commissioner Moore.
No.
Commissioner Richards.
No.
Commissioner Wu.
No.
And Commission President Fong.
Aye.
So moved. That recommendation will move forward 4-3 with Commissioners Moore, Richards, and Wu voting against.